So let's now use the Sendgrid service in order to send real emails to real email inboxes, rather than to our development inbox at Mailtrap. And so let's open up a new tab here and search for Sendgrid, and then it is here sendgrid.com. Alright, so we can try it for free. It will then have some limits, but you can still create a free account from which you can send like 100 emails per day. Alright, so go ahead and create your account here, and once you're ready, come back to this video. Okay, and after creating your account, you should see your dashboard that should look something like this. Alright, so you see there's a ton of stuff here on the left side. You can choose like templates, you can see all kinds of statistics about the emails that you're sending, and really there is a ton of settings that you can also set here. Okay, but for now what we are interested in is in the setup guide. Okay, so here in the top left corner of your dashboard you should have this menu here where we then want to click the setup guide. Now if the page at the time you're watching this video looks somewhat different, then you might also find this setup guide link somewhere down here, and in this case here on the right side. So let's open that up, and now what we want to do is here to integrate using our web API or SMTP relay. Alright, and you could also easily integrate Sendgrid into WordPress or Drupal or something like that, but of course that's not what we want. So here we want the first option, and then we want the SMTP relay, because that is the one that we need if we want to use NodeMailer and create a transport with that. And so that's exactly what we're doing, and so we choose this one. On the other hand, we could also use the simple to use Sendgrid API, and so then we would choose this way. But again, with NodeMailer, we need to choose this option here. And then from here, it's very easy. So here we just need to create an API key with some name. And so that name is not really relevant at all. So let's just call it Naters. Create key. And so now to configure or transport in NodeMailer, all we need is actually this username and this password. So let's add these two to our config file. So I'm copying the password and the username is API key. So config.env, and then everything that's related to emails, let's put that here. So Sendgrid username is API key, and Sendgrid password is this one. And once more, I really ask you to create your own account and your own API key and password instead of using mine. Okay? Because if many people do that, it will quickly stop working for everyone. Alright? So please create your own account and generate your own password. Okay? So that is actually enough for us to create or transport. And so let's do that here. So NodeMailer.create transport. And now remember how I told you when we first created this email handler a couple of sections ago that there are some services that are already predefined. And Sendgrid is actually one of them. So we can specify service and then set it to Sendgrid. Alright, and we actually did this before for Gmail, and with that all we needed to then pass in was the username and the password. And so here it's going to be exactly the same. And that's the reason why we actually don't even need to specify the server and the port. Okay, because NodeMailer already knows this data because we're specifying this Sendgrid service. So now we just need to specify the authentication, and the user is at process.env.sendgrid username. And now let's just duplicate this here. And here, pass. Okay, and that's actually it. And now to test this, let's create a new user with a real email address. So we go to Postman, and let's close all of these here. All right. And so I will create Jonas. And now as the email address, I will create one of these disposable emails, which is basically an email address and an inbox for which we don't even have to sign up. So we're going to use the MailSack service. So that goes like that. And so here we can now really put anything. So let's just put Jonas, and then everyone can access this. All right. So I will now register with this email address. And so the welcome email should then end up in this inbox. And you, of course, when you're testing this on your own, can of course use your own email address for this. Okay, so go ahead, create a user basically for yourself with your own email address, and then hit send. And so now our email should be sent using Sendgrid. And now that might take a little bit of time, but let's reload here. Maybe it's already there. And actually it's not. So let's take a look at here our dashboard. And from my experience, this actually doesn't work right away. So for example, this emails to name number here always takes some time to actually update. And also the first emails that you send, they not always actually show up where they should. So this behavior that we're seeing here is kind of normal. Let's try this again. So we still got no email here, but actually the reason for that is that remember that this transport is only going to work in production. And so actually we need to run our application in production, which right now we are not doing. So let's now do that. npm run start production. And so let's now actually try that again. So first I'm going to delete the user that we just created. So it's this one here. And actually let me delete all of these that we don't really need. So all these test users. All right. And so now let's try this again with this email address. And that is still successful. And now let's take again a look at our email inbox. Reload that. Oh, and now we get one message. So when we open that, then here it is. Now for some reason, this application is doing something weird with this button here. So it seems like they are applying their own styles here to this email. But never mind, what matters here is that it did actually work. And so now we send our very first email using Sendgrid to a real inbox. Now let's just see if it actually shows up here as well. But as I said, sometimes that takes some time to show up. So as I mentioned before, it still shows 0 emails here, while in fact we already sent and received one email. Okay, so great. So with this, you can now send up to 103 emails, I believe. It says something here. Yeah. So with the trial that you just started, I think it's even more. It's like thousands of emails per day. But then after some time, you get downgraded to just 100. So if you have a real app in the real company, of course, you will have to pay for this functionality. But then at that point, that's also no problem, hopefully. Anyway, this now wraps up our part about sending emails. And in the rest of the section, we're now going to be talking about accepting payments with credit cards and creating bookings in our system. So that is really, really exciting. And so I hope to see you there soon.